Hello, everyone, and welcome to Texas Oncology's Survive and Thrive webinar series. My name is Kelly Condon, and I'm the program coordinator here at Texas Oncology Foundation, and I am so pleased to be here with you all this afternoon. We are very excited. We have Tamika Felder here with us today, leading our discussion on heating it up without sizzling out. We're going to be talking about intimacy after cancer tonight. Just to give other registrants a few more minutes to get here, we are going to throw out some polling questions just as icebreakers and just to kind of get a feel for our audience. So the first thing I want to ask is how many of you have been to one of our Survive and Thrive events, whether it's a symposium or a webinar? And you can just answer on your screen by clicking your answer. Awesome. It looks like we have a lot of new people to the foundation, so that's really exciting tonight that we have a brand new, fresh audience. That'll make hearing from Tamika even more special for you guys. Another question, I'm just interested in where are you listening from? Where are you tuning in from? Let us know where you are in the state. Sorry, that question is actually not here. Just let us know how many people are actually viewing with you. Awesome. It looks like a lot of you are viewing with yourselves and a friend. So that's exciting, and we hope that you enjoy this time. Just to give you a little background information about our foundation, Texas Oncology Foundation is dedicated to providing support to cancer patients in the communities where they live, work, and receive treatment. And so our Survive and Thrive series is hopefully just a resource for you all, whether it's our symposiums or these webinars, just a resource for you to connect with others and to gain some information. I'm going to go over a few housekeeping rule things before we start. If you have questions, please feel free to submit at any time. There is a box on your control panel, and it's a drop down that just says questions, and you can type in any questions you have, either for Tamika, or if you're having issues, I can see those and can help you out throughout the presentation. We will answer questions for Tamika at the very end of the presentation. And so, like I said, send them in whenever you have them, and then we will have a Q&A session at the end. If you are experiencing any trouble, like a window disappearing or the slides do not advance, simply closing and reopening the webinar window will usually fix those issues. If you are experiencing any audio problems, the best solution is to call into the webinar and listen over the phone. There's an audio section on your control panel located on the right side of your screen. Select phone call and to access the number in which to call. We are recording this webinar and it will be online archived. You will also receive as a registrant a follow-up email tomorrow, which will also include this link in case you would like to share it or you would like to re-listen to it. There are going to be a few polling questions, just like the ones you participated in during the presentation. So just like you did before, when one pops up, just click your answer, and then we will move on with the presentation as answers are finally coming in. Lastly, I just want to introduce our presenter, Tamika Felder. She is a television producer and host. She's an international speaker and author. She is a cancer survivor herself, and has been dedicated to being a patient advocate. I've actually had the opportunity to hear her speak at our DFW symposium, and she is one of the most genuine people I've ever had the pleasure of meeting. Just from meeting her in person once, you can just tell that her heart is truly to serve others and to make herself a resource for others. I'm sure you will just all fall in love with her, and you will just see her joy and love come through the screen at you this afternoon. We are so thankful and so grateful that Tamika is here with us tonight. And so, Tamika, I'm going to let you take it over.
Kelly, thank you so much. And what a great introduction. I feel all that love, and I love the Texas Oncology Foundation. I especially love the Survive and Thrive Summit events. And now I get to be a part of the webinar. So I'm really, really excited to be here. Thank you, and Natalie and everybody there for this. I want to thank all of the attendees who are on today. You took time out of your busy day to be here with me, and I really, really appreciate that. This is a wonderful community, and what I love most about it is that we learn from each other, and I bet there's some things that I'm going to learn from you today. So today's topic is literally, if you don't know, one of my absolute favorites. It's pretty up there with things that I want to talk about, things that I want to know about, and it is heating it up without sizzling it out. And I think, going through cancer treatment, that is something that we all can relate to. So you might be asking yourself right now, if you don't know, who is Tamika Felder? Why should I listen to her talk about sex? Well, I'll tell you. I am not a doctor. I watch Grey's Anatomy all the time. So like many people who watch Grey's Anatomy, they think they're a doctor and they can offer medical advice. I am not a doctor. I am not offering medical advice. I am giving you real life experience, peer-to-peer, as a fellow cancer survivor, what I've gone through, how my mate has dealt with my issues of intimacy after cancer, and also what it was like for me when I was single. So I'm just sharing with you what I've learned over the time. I've researched this topic, and one of the things that I really am passionate about, and I mean this, I survived cancer, so I deserve at least a good orgasm. At least, right? Now, there'll be some people who say, well, how is that possible? Everything you went through, how is that possible? You have to shift the narrative on what you think. Everything you thought prior to cancer, some of it you have to throw out the window. A lot of it you do, because things have changed. But we'll get to more of that later. So here's a little about me. I'm a 16-year cervical cancer survivor, or Cervivor, Cervivor, as I like to say. I was diagnosed at 25. I had a radical hysterectomy. The top third of my vagina was removed. I experienced chemotherapy and radiation therapy. And, I look at it now, and sometimes I think I went through a lot, and it was hard, and it was difficult. And then you compare yourself to others, and you think, well, it wasn't so bad. It could have been worse. But I always felt like I couldn't talk about sex to my doctor because, one, I was already going through cancer, and then I had this cancer that was linked to an STD, to the human papillomavirus, to a sexually transmitted infection. So what right did I have to ask about sexuality? But as a young woman, and I would have felt this at any age, I wanted to know. I had questions. And the truth is, I didn't always feel like I deserved it because of those things, but I just should figure out a way to be happy because I was alive. But what kind of life is that? And that's when we start thinking about our life after cancer. So sexuality is embarrassing. It's difficult to talk about, not only for the patient, but also for the doctor. I can't tell you how many doctors that I've spoken to, and they talk about how uncomfortable it is for them to talk about sex. It's an embarrassing topic. It's awkward. But the reality is that we have to talk about sex after and during cancer. It is an important part of one's life after cancer. And I feel very strongly about it, so much so that I can't stop talking about it. One of the ways that I healed through my cancer is when I started this organization, Cervivor. It was a part of me being involved with a cancer community, cancer groups, and then eventually starting my own nonprofit. And with all of the people that I met and the conferences and survivorship groups, there was still one thing missing for me. There hardly was any, and if there was, it was very minimal mentions about sex. So I want to take a quick poll and talk about how many of you felt comfortable asking how cancer would impact your sex life during and after cancer. So let's take that poll really quick. And like I said, I wasn't always comfortable talking about it, but it's definitely one of those things we have to talk about. And if we don't bring it up, or our doctor, who's going to bring it up? So someone out of that has to bring it up. And it just might be you. So I'm not surprised. Most don't feel comfortable. I felt the same way. So talking about sex and cancer actually landed me on the cover of Newsweek. And it was quite funny to me because they called me an intimacy pioneer. I don't feel that way because there's so many other people who've done such great work. But I never aspired to talk about sex. But here I am talking about it nonstop. And one of the things that I loved so much about this special health issue is that it included a big chunk on sex and cancer. And they called us cancer rebels and rule breakers. And those are things that I think are true when it comes to me and my friends and cancer survivors who talk about it with such passion, and also the doctors as well. But they also ask this important question: why is nobody talking about it? Now, there are people who talk about it, but more of us have to start talking about it. David Fuhrer, who was also mentioned in the Newsweek article, he had testicular cancer. He said, empathy to a guy is so much more than your thing doesn't function. It's like you're not a man. How do you say to people, I am not a man? And that makes me sad that here it is, over a decade since my cancer diagnosis, and cancer is still something that's hardly talked about. It's something that we absolutely have to change, and it takes all of us. 60%, that's a big number. That's the number of cancer survivors that suffer from long-term sexual problems, and fewer than 20% get the help that they need to lead fulfilling sex lives. Fulfilling sex lives, I'm going to say that, fulfilling sex lives. According to the great Leslie Shover, a clinical psychologist who's one of the pioneers, she is a pioneer in helping cancer survivors navigate sexual health and fertility, and she's based right in Texas. 60%, we have to change that. The number of cancer survivors are increasing. The quality of lives after treatment are increasing, but we want this number to go down. We want sexuality to be a high topic of conversation when it comes to a doctor-patient conversations and follow-up exams. This is from one of my survivor ambassadors. And, I was taken aback by this, but I really thought that it was a great way of explaining what happened. And she used the analogy of the nursery rhyme, Humpty Dumpty. The full quote is, When I think back to my life post-cervical cancer treatment, the nursery rhyme verse comes to mind. All of the king's horses and all of the king's men couldn't put Humpty back together again. Just like in the nursery rhyme, sometimes when something is broken, it can't be put back together again. My body was tattered, sense of peace shaken, stamina weakened, mind weary, and I was left with a struggling relationship. I had to find a way to walk in my survivorship, with or without a partner by my side. When I think back to my life post-cervical cancer treatment, a nursery rhyme is what comes to mind. And I mean, I think that is so true. We feel broken inside. We feel like we got put back together, but it's not exactly in the right way. I hear from a lot of cancer patient survivors that their status matters, meaning, if they are single or in a relationship. I know I felt the same way. That's because I was single when I was first diagnosed, and many years later I got married. So I started this journey and I didn't have a partner. And that was the reason that I told myself that I couldn't participate in X, Y, or Z. But now that I'm married, some of the same things that I had to do as a single person, I still have to do as a married woman. So change the excuse that you were telling yourself. For me, it's dilators. I still have to use dilators, whether I'm single or in a relationship. So status doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're single, dating, married, engaged, widowed, heterosexual, homosexual, your prerogative. Whatever it is, your status doesn't matter. It's finding what works for you that is the most important. There are health benefits to sex, and these are just a few. Better blood pressure, less stress, better self-esteem, better sleep, improve your heart health, boost your immune system, helps relieve pain, counts as exercise, woohoo, increases happiness, improves intimacy, a mood stabilizer, meaning yes, it promotes world peace. And I think we all could use some of that right now. So what am I talking about when I'm telling you all these wonderful health benefits to sex? What does that exactly mean for you? It's all about you. Those were just a few of the benefits. And notice that when I was talking about them, I didn't even say good sex, but let's strive for good, enjoyable sex, yes? And at the end of the day, it's all about you. Now, there will be some who disagree with this, and I've heard it before when I've done this talk, and that's okay, but just hear me out for a second. I want you to be a little selfish. I want you to focus on your feelings, your wants, your needs, and I want you to think about the things that you say to yourself, the way you feel about yourself, and the way you love yourself, the way you see yourself. Because sex is more than just the act of sex. It's the way we feel about ourselves. It's the way we feel about a partner. It's an emotion. That's why your relationship status, it doesn't matter. And whatever organs or body parts are missing or skin sensitivities, and yes, it matters that those things happen to you and that they impacted your quality of life. But starting today, you are not going to let those things stop you from truly living. And intimacy is a very important part of your quality of life. And these are just all the things that sexuality includes and what's expressed through sexual activities. And so I want you to accept these things, and I want you to understand the truth. The truth is that things have changed. Your body is not the same. Emotionally, you are not the same. And, in the cancer world, we use this term a lot, new normal. And I have a love-hate relationship with that term. But this is part of your new normal. It's accepting the truth that things have changed, your body is not the same, and emotionally, you are not the same. And when you accept that, you can move forward with everything else. Treatment, the good and the bad. Treatment is good because it helps to keep us alive. but it's also bad because it drastically changes and alters our quality of life. And in most cancer, you're never ever the same person physically or even emotionally after treatment. You know, some of the things that are the bad part of treatment: the loss of desire for sex, the hormone changes, erectile dysfunction, the ability to ejaculate, the loss of the ability to ejaculate, the pain. A lot of people experience pain, you know, for those that especially have radiation to sex organs, those intimacy areas that you no longer want someone to see or to touch. Or what about the loss of those very intimate organs? You have to figure out what your new normal is. So look at the people in the photos, okay? Take a minute, look at the photos. You know, we try to be like the people in the photos. I mean, look at them. They've got the good endorphins going, the sex glow is all over them. But we know that things can sizzle out as quickly as they heat up. Look at it. And I love these photos because you see not just the act of sex, but the intimacy part of the touching, the romance, the foreplay. But when no fireworks happens, we're like these folks. Things crumble, we get frustrated, we get tired of trying, and we just want to throw in the towel. Can you relate to that? Here's the thing. There is no magical fix. There are lots of things out there that can help us and get us to the next level of ecstasy, but there's no magical fix, and it takes time, and we have to be patient with ourselves. I'm a real fan of Blanche Devereaux. I love the Golden Girls. I like the show because they were older women and they were all in some sort of way getting their groove back, or for Blanche, keeping it going strong. And I think we should all find our inner Blanche Devereaux. Yes, even the men too. What I mean is that someone who doesn't give up on life. Sure, you get frustrated and down, but you never give up. And that's the thing about Blanche Devereaux. She just would pick herself up and she'd get back on that saddle again. And so that's what I want to really talk to you all about, is making sure that you don't give up on the things that you want. And it's hard because it's a constant process. When you talk about setting the mood, you have to find out what works for you. One of the things I learned in my life post cancer is that my new normal is that my libido, for the most part, it's not there. And I have to work really hard to get in the mood. And that means that I need a lot of foreplay. I need a lot of romance, and I need to romance myself. So when we think about that slide that I said earlier, that sexuality is not just about the act of sex. It's also the messages that you tell yourself. If you're constantly worried about a partner and pleasing them, you can't get out of your own head to enjoy it. So find out what works for you. And none of these things may even work for you. These are just some ideas. You have to figure out what works for you. So play your favorite sensual music. Take a warm sensual bath or shower. Have a glass of wine. Read erotica. Get a massage. Or give one to yourself. Yes, yes, yes. And toys, of course, not the kitty kind. And I didn't put it on here, but I'm going to say it. If you need to watch a video or something that helps you, you have to do what works for you. This is working in your new normal and finding out those tools, those things that will help increase your libido. And so you have to really think, what works for me? What's important to me? What makes me feel good? What makes me feel uncomfortable? What are the ways that I can enjoy being intimate again? So then when you figure out those things, it's time to bring in a partner. If you have one, or if you want one in the future, and then you can say, okay, these are the things that I need in this area of my life. And you have to find your voice and you have to share it. If you're single, you still have to do these things. You have to find a way to make yourself feel good. You have to set the mood, because the reality is that a lot of times there will be pain. You will be frustrated. It will get better. And you have to remember that practice makes perfect. And so when we talk about pain, know that your body is healing. And sometimes it takes a while for your body to heal internally. But you should always find your voice and talk to a doctor and make sure that if something is really bothering you and it doesn't feel good, because you know your body better than anyone else, you have to make sure that you talk to a doctor to make sure that there's no damage being done. One of the things I also highly recommend is a sex therapist that specializes in cancer. If for some reason your cancer center doesn't have one, consider seeking one out in another area, or one that accepts consultations over the phone. You'd be surprised how many do that. And I have to tell you, pain management and a sex therapist, male or female, it's very important to have that in your arsenal of your life beyond cancer. So I definitely would encourage you all to do that. So you know how, we find our tribe, and we have the tribe that lifts our spirits, our friends and our people who understand us. So I want you to find your tools and your resources to that life part of you that can get you to that experience. So some of these can be some of your new best friends. And these are, arousal oils, lubricants, massagers, and as I said, an actual friend, therapist, or a doctor to talk to. A lot of times it's us getting out of our own head and our own emotions, because we're so caught up in trying to do something that we once could do, but we can't do again. And this is very important. So think of these as your new tool chest, your new arsenal of friends. We're not alone in this. As I said earlier, a lot of this is due to embarrassment on both sides, of the patient and the doctor. But we have to remember that, sexuality is still a very understudied area. And the more that you communicate with your doctor, the more that we can help not only ourselves, but future cancer generations. So that's definitely something for you to think about as we move forward in helping other people. I talked about Dr. Leslie Shover early. This is a great resource for not only the cancer patient or survivor, but also a caregiver. This is the willtolove.com website, and there's a small fee for it, but through a partnership with the American Cancer Society, there's a limited time for you to get the program for free. So definitely take advantage of this. And it also has great stuff about fertility and parenthood as well. But the main aspect of it is to empower cancer survivors and help them fulfill their sexual health side of their life beyond their cancer. And so these are your tools. These are your resources. Make sure that you pass them on to other people, because I want to encourage everyone to start talking about this. This is the only way that we make a difference, when we start talking about the intimacy side of cancer and realizing that that it's personal to us. And sometimes we want our doctors to speak up, but unfortunately not all doctors will. So we have to be empowered and motivated to speak up, to ask for the things that we want. And if there's things that you don't feel comfortable going to a store, that's what Amazon.com is for. That's what all these other websites are for. There are tools that you can have in your arsenal that can help. So you've got homework. But I want to ask a poll before I get into the homework side of it. Do you now feel more comfortable talking to your clinical team about issues related to sexuality and intimacy? And I hope so. And it is. It's a very hard topic to talk about. I'm so glad the majority of you are saying yes. And definitely, this is part of your homework. Start a conversation with your doctor if you haven't. Start today. And get out there and have some fun. Find your pleasure. Find what makes you tick. Find what makes you get there. And again, intimacy is about the way you feel about yourself. Intimacy is about taking you outside of your head. Intimacy helps get you to that orgasm. And remember, there are different ways that you can achieve that arousal. A lot of it is from touch. If you can't touch, talking, the love languages, the words we say. And remember, if you don't have a partner, it's okay to tell yourself how you feel about yourself, what you see and what you like about yourself. If you don't like something, what you're going to work on. This is the time to start thinking about what makes you happy. And whether you're in a relationship or not, it makes you feel better. If you're in a relationship, it makes your relationship better. You have to start with loving and pleasuring yourself first. So I want to take a moment to ask answer any questions if you have questions for me. I don't see any, so maybe you're still shy.
The question tab is located on everyone's control panel. It might be further down. If you have any questions, submit them. Tamika, I don't know if you know of any local resources, but kind of like the Will to Love, do you know of any in Texas that are similar to that might be like local groups?
I actually don't know right offhand, but that's definitely something that we could get some resources that are local to the people in the state of Texas. I know that there are definitely some big cancer centers in the state of Texas. I know, for example, they're in New York. They're very progressive because they also have a men's sexual health. A lot of times what I hear from males that attend any of my sessions is that it's not enough for men, and I agree with them. And that's typical because a lot of men weren't talking about it, not even with their doctors, but there's been quite the movement to get men more talking, to get men more satisfied past their cancer experience, which is another thing why I love this article so much. And so I know everything, it's always a cost factor, but it's definitely one of those things that it doesn't hurt to reach out, even if something is out of your area, by calling or sending an email, because a lot of people honestly want to find help for you. They want to offer you resources. And because there's so much study and research going on in this, I bet you could find someone that would be willing to help you even if you weren't in the same state.
Awesome. And we actually did just get in a question. And it was, do you need to have a doctor prescribe dilators or can you just order them?
You can order them, but what I would say is that you should talk to your doctor about them. And if people don't know, dilators are small. They look like dildos that you insert into the vaginal canal. The vagina is a muscle, so if your vagina has been radiated or you've had any type of surgery, the dilators are used to stretch that muscle back out. Sounds easy, right? But it's actually very painful. And so what I hear sometimes from people is that they order the dilators themselves and they insert the wrong size. And that can end up causing more harm than it can damage because they're trying to force something that doesn't fit. And they need, and the dilator packs come with a sequence of sizes from very small to ranging to a larger sizes. And so it's really important to talk to a doctor so that there's no harm done to an area that's already experienced trauma from surgery or treatment.
Very good.
But yes, be proactive about it. Tell your doctor you're ready to order, but you want to make sure you get the right thing. And you know, that little bit of embarrassment is worth, you know, the pleasure that you may be able to get in the end.
Awesome. And this is just kind of another random question I had that I thought people might be interested in. But do most doctors' offices have sex therapist resources for patients?
Unfortunately not. And it, you know, it's gotten better, but the majority of them still do not. And so that's why it's really hard. So when you seek out resources, and there are definitely websites and other places that you can go. I like the Will to Love website because Dr. Shover has been doing this, I think, like well over 20 years. And so there are a lot of resources on that website instead of you having to go from this website to this website to this website. A lot of stuff is housed on that website, and I really like a one-stop shop because why do things the hard way if you really don't have to? But there is this shift to get more cancer centers actively talking about it, a shift to get more doctors and nurse practitioners talking about it. We're just not there yet, but it definitely can happen. One of the things that I loved in the last Survive and Thrive summit that we had is during this sex and intimacy session, I was talking about coconut oil and how wonderful and natural it is, and it's great not only for your hair and your skin, but you can use it in your vagina, your anus, and other places. And, you know, but it's a pain with these jars. And one of our senior attendees actually passed a note to me. And she told me that the Trader Joe's brand, and I don't know if everyone has Trader Joe's where they are, but they have coconut oil packs. So you can take them with you on a plane, a cruise, anywhere. And I just thought it was the best thing ever. And, you know, because it doesn't matter what age you are, people still want that intimacy. They still want that type of feeling. And so that was a great thing that everybody enjoyed. It kind of broke the ice, and it started up another conversation.
Absolutely. And then this isn't really a question, but somebody shared a comment, and I would be interested just to hear your input on it. But they said something that they did find helpful with intimacy was getting pelvic floor therapy.
Yes. For those who have gone through like a GYN cancer or anything like that, pelvic floor therapy can be extremely helpful. It's just another way to figure out kind of what's going on down there, exercises that you can do. For those with GYN cancer issues, it works hand in hand with a GYN urologist and things like that. So pelvic floor therapy is very, very important. I definitely would say for a lot of these cancers, a urologist is definitely should be part of your medical team.
Very good. Well, I don't see any other questions or comments. Do you have anything you want to add, Tamika?
I just want to say, get out there and start heating things up. And if for some reason it fizzles out, start that fire again, baby. I want to keep in touch with you all. So here's my contact information. You can find me on all the social media platforms. I have a book, Seriously, What Are You Waiting For? 13 Actions to Ignite Your Life and Achieve the Ultimate Comeback. I wrote it just for cancer patients so that they're not stuck after treatment or finding their footing in their life beyond their cancer. And I also want to thank all of you for joining us today. I want to thank again Texas Oncology Foundation, because you all get it. And that just tells me like how you feel about the people in your state. And I also love the people who travel from outside of the state and come on to the webinars who don't live in the state, because they love all the programs and all the information that you all do to provide support to your cancer community. And so with that, Kelly, I just want to thank you and Natalie again, and I'm going to hand it back over to you.
Thank you so much, Tamika. We always love getting to partner with you and work with you. So many comments are coming in just saying how much they love this lady so much, and I'm so glad I knew your personality would just come through the screen tonight. Thank you to everyone who tuned in and joined with us tonight. We are so happy that you have chosen to partake in these webinars. Thank you to all who added to the discussion. I loved it. As we close this webinar, there is going to be a survey screen that pops up. If you don't mind, please just take a moment and give us your feedback on today's presentation, as well as topics you'd like to see covered in future webinars. And if you are interested in more resources, or you would just love to see Tamika in person, go to our Texas Oncology Foundation website and register for one of our upcoming symposiums. We will be in Longview, Texas on February 24th. We will be in Austin, Texas on March 3rd, and we will be in Houston, Texas on March 24th. And then there's even Beaumont and Dallas will be later in the year as well. So stay in touch with the foundation, and we hope that you continue to join us for these webinars. Thank you again, Tamika, and everybody have a great evening.
Thank you. You're welcome. Bye.
Bye.